so got the motor back out. Here's what we got. And let me just go ahead and touch on something real fast. I'm not keeping this front end, just so for anybody that knows or anybody that does not know, I'm not keeping this long term. So I just want to get the car up and running, maybe run it for a year, maybe 8 months, something like that. And not this winter, obviously, because we're going to be trying to get the car running, but maybe next winter. I would like to cut everything off except for the rails. I just want to leave the factory rails and cut everything off and put a bolt-in K-member in here, and we're going to go back with Fox body struts, and we're going to put the factory shock hats back in this car. So we will be clipping this front end coming up. I'm just trying to basically get this to where it's a good year, I guess you can say, of figuring things out. So even if this doesn't work perfectly, and I have any issues or anything, just bear with me and keep in mind that this is not permanent. So I've got, a couple hours in it this weekend doing it up to this point. I'm not going to be keeping this long term like this. So this will only be temporary, and then, like I said, we'll be making changes. So some people were asking about the Procharger being faced that way with the intake on the back, pipe on the front, should be turned around. I wanted it turned around so that the intake went in forward, but then today it was dawning on me that if I turned it around where our pipe was out the backside, I don't know how I would get that thing to the intercooler, because I can't really go through here because of how tight the tire is. I don't know how I'd get that thing up. I mean, I guess we can maybe come up over and down, but that would just extend just about the length of run of pipe, into our intercooler up here, versus right now it just comes out, swoops and S's down. So I was kind of in the dumps this past week. A couple of things, and that was maybe 5% or, of it, is that I was like, man, I should have just went with that freaking thing forward. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, my application, that Procharger being faced forward with the intake forward would have probably made the situation even worse. Now, when we redo this at a later date, I would love to go with a gear drive Procharger, but we'll probably be changing, motor or upgrading or something big before we do that, because it's a lot of money. So that's where we're at. I'm going to build some supports. I'm going to brace these standoffs and get some of this welded up, and then probably call it a night. So let's get at it. All right, so I got my standoffs in. Nothing pretty at all. I'm not a professional welder. The bottoms are not done. When it goes on the lift, Mike will reflow over all of this and burn all this in so that it's nice and solid. So what you get when you're not welding with gas, you get a lot of popping and stuff. I forgot to cover up the freaking transmission when I started welding that, so I don't think anything shot over there and got on that input or output spline, but definitely we'll check that before we reset the torque converter, just to make sure there's no splatter. There's so much freaking oil on it, probably nothing to even stick to it. Wasn't worried about covering up the shocks because I felt like I was pretty safe, but you should cover up your shocks. I did learn that from somebody else in the comments, that be careful welding near them, because they have seen the little tiny slag go and hit the shaft and stick to the shaft and then tear the seal out of the shocks. So I think we're gonna call it quits for tonight. That's a pretty good progress for today, and then tomorrow I'll come back out here. It'll be Saturday. I'll clean this all up, and then probably get in here, sweep some up, and then get in here and cut out these back areas right here. So go ahead and saw them out and get them out of here and start getting that cleaned up. One more thing before anybody comments about how everything is shifted to that way. When I bought this kit, with the cross member in it, before I had cut the cross member out, it was already shifted over. I'm not 100% sure why they do this kit like this, but this steering rack, as you can see, this one was here before I bent it, and this one is recessed in. So both of these were shifted over. When we redid our bolts, we pretty much kept them in line. with the centers of the tabs. And so my steering rack was already set for the wheels pretty much, and set, to clear around the headers. Everything was set. So all I did was put the steering rack back in there with the steering shaft lined up, into that one. That wheel got pulled in a little because of the rack being sucked out. I've got to recenter everything and, do the alignment. But ever since I had got this front end, that has always been shifted that way for whatever reason. I don't know. Follow the directions. I'm 100% that I got that cross member correct whenever I put it in, but that's just how this kit is it was shifted over like that. Now our engine limiter did come back from the motor, and it did get tabbed on to, the top of there. I don't know if y'all remember, you can see right there. So the tab's on top. Mike had done that, and what we're gonna have to do is once we get the motor back in there, is me and Mike will have to grind off a little bit of paint probably and re-tab that engine limiter. So I wasn't about to do that tonight because, I don't know exactly where that needs to be, and I had enough going on with, everything else. I don't want to fine tune that too much to a T, but just sum them things up before somebody comments and points that stuff out. All right, welcome back. It is Sunday morning now. So come out here, and this sun is bright, dude. I got the door open. It's beautiful. It's Sunday morning. Look at that. We go from hurricane to just amazing weather. It's probably in the high 70s, low 80s here. So somebody just commented on a previous video with a pretty unique comment and said, what does the wife think about all this? So the wife's actually not happy with me. Well, I think she's not happy with me. Not because I'm doing all this, because she actually, her exact words the other night when we went to get a shower, she was like, I honestly thought you'd already had the motor to TKM by now. So it's almost like I'm dragging compared to where she thinks I should be at, I guess. She wants to see it back together. She wants me to get y'all content on the channel. One of her concerns that she has voiced in the past is that basically not getting the channel content to keep up with the subscribers and the growth. So she's all on board. She's wonderful, but we're rocking and rolling. So my pace is not, I'm not always at the pace I guess I should be at, or moving as fast as I should be. We basically took last week off. I worked on it last Sunday and didn't start back on this thing until Thursday night, and that's when I told her, I was like, I'm gonna go down to the in the garage and work on the car tonight. She was like, oh wow. She's like, yeah, honestly, I was kind of surprised that you've been sitting around all week and you ain't already got the motor to TKM. I was like, well, I just didn't feel like it, and I wasn't in a hurry to stack more debt on top of what we already have for this thing. And we're out here rocking and rolling this morning, trying to get some more of the cut work done. Pretty much got everything cut out, I think, besides possibly the cowl is up, in question if I'm gonna cut it out or not and change it up. But I think I got all the front end stuff cut out. So let me flip the camera around. So we come in here and cut this area out. If you remember, we still had metal that went from here, all the way down to there. So all of this was still boxed in, making it harder to get, if you needed to get back here to the back of the motor or the headers or anything, you couldn't see back there, and I never really liked it. And I always wanted to cut it out, but I didn't think I could. So same with this side, is it went from here to there, and all of this was completely closed in. So again, you couldn't see the firewall or nothing back there. So when I first started building this car, I'm self-taught, had no help, and I could just pick up bits and pieces off the internet. Of course, I have a little bit of a collision background, but I'm self-taught in collision also. So I'm 100% self-taught in everything in life. High school dropout and haven't been to school for anything at all. So everything I do is self-taught. But I was worried, me and Mike had discussed, I was worried about cutting this section out because of the frame rail. You know, your frame rails come out like this, so I was worried about them collapsing up. Even though these bars are here, I was still worried about it. You know, originally I had done the front end a little different. It used to have that thick of tube that hooped all the way around the top and then went down. Like if you go back to the video where I go over like the history of the car, I show pictures. I wasn't doing YouTube then, but it was way too many of them fat bars in the front end when I first built this car. So this front end has been cut probably 4 or 5 times now. In different areas or pieces. I guarantee you I've had sauce on this thing at least 4 or 5 times. So I wanted them there to kind of keep the frame rails from a little bit of collapsing, and that's the reason why I put that pretty good sized bar right here, you know, to go down. But then, you know, the more I have advanced and learned, I've realized that that definitely adds structure. We can't argue with that. But these are just spot welded on right here. I mean, it's not adding but so much structure. If anything, really the bar that I added down added structure. But these bars, they come up and they go back into the cowl. So these bars are actually not tied into the cage. The cage is just a what, 6 point, 8 point, 10 point. I don't remember what you would consider this thing. So you have your main hoop, of course, you have your down bars that go to the back, you have your diagonal bars through here, you have your front bars that come up, you have your main hoop in the top like that, and then you got diagonal bars that go down like that. Of course, some bars go down. So there's no actual bar tied into the front of this. Traditionally, you have it go through the dash and to the front. When I was building this, I had no intentions of building that big of a cage, and when I had the opportunity, when I redid these fronts, I had the opportunity to go through into the cage, but I, at that time, decided I didn't want to cut my dash all up and go through there. So what I had done, and this has been like this ever since the car was originally built, it's just this bar used to come out straight instead of going down, is we have flat plated this right here. So this is your cowl structure, you know, off your firewall right here. And you see your firewall right here. So all I had done was took it, cut it like that, left this structure right here because this is like doubled up. I mean, this piece from the factory right here, you know, goes all right here, and it's only notched right there. So there's factory spot weld still right there. So this big chunk and this big chunk, all that was, you know, left original. Of course, this has to stay because this is where your factory hood hinges, you know, mount up, and the car still retains factory hood hinges. So that right there is where the factory hood hinges pull up. But I had simply come in here and just where I had cut it, I plated it. So we have a pretty thick steel plate right there. Okay, you can see right here, it's way thicker than the other stuff there. And then we tied the bar into that. So of course your force is pushing back onto all of this structure, which basically from the factory, everything up top, up here, your whole upper piece is just thin sheet metal, a bunch of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have collision experience, self-taught collision experience, but when you have this sheet metal that's doubled up and tripled up, this stuff is actually pretty strong. Like, I mean, it crumples and stuff, you know, but if you go to try to pull that stuff, sometimes it takes force to, you know, we're on the frame rack to pull this stuff. So even though this is just sheet metal, it still definitely adds structure. Don't get that confused. But the more I have grown, I really feel decent now about, you know, just our plates, how we just have plates there and this bar's kicked into there, and then the frame rails, you know, from the factory, they have not been touched. You can see this plate over here, how it's plated, and I mean, it's tied in across the bottom and up across the top. Nothing's tied in on that up in there. It's hard to see. Nothing's tied in right there, but I think I'm perfectly fine. I don't think I need to add anything back here. If I do add anything back here, it would be come off of where the shock is and go back, triangulate it. Leave your comments below right now if you think I should triangulate and come off of like literally right here and just go back. So I don't mind doing that. It's pretty simple. That would give it some, you know, down into the, you know, strength down into there. And I'd probably honestly just go right here, not on the frame rail. That way I can keep the inside, you know, nice and open, because this bolt right here, this is annoying setup, but we're not going to spend the money right now. But this bolt has to slide in here just to get the A-arm out. So we don't want to put no bolt bars up in here, make anything harder to get to. But I'd probably definitely just put a little plate right here on this, and I could literally kick straight off of this straight back to there into that corner really tight, and I don't think it would hit the tire or nothing. Of course, I would check clearances, and I already have a perfect opportunity or perfect placement because we have this big flat plate right here that our shock tower is, or adjustable cup, whatever you want to call the thing, is built off of. So we could literally just hit straight to that, cut 245s or whatever on the ends of them. Won't have to cope them or nothing. So if you think I need that, comment below. But on the rails, we have left the factory pinch weld. So just kind of go over this with y'all because I have never been able to go over this, and I know I love information like this on other Mavericks and Comets, but people don't ever go into detail. So you can see right here your factory rail comes across. This is doubled up. This is where the old sheet metal used to be, but I mean this is double right here. So you have, or triple, I think this was double metal plus your frame rail. So you still have all the spot rails right here. None of this has been touched. It's then notched right here, and it's notched all the way to the end, but the rail is again double plated, and that you can't tell. You can kind of tell how nice and square these are. Here's a good view right here, so you can see where there's weld. So there's actually more steel welded on there. So there's a steel plate welded on the top, the inside, and the bottom on all of these. You can also see on this side where it is plated right there. So this area from here to here has been, I mean, extremely beefy because we tied in all of our suspension here. So it's burned in all the way around on every single plate. So we recessed these plates down a little so we could lay a big bead down there. So the rails were double plated before the suspension was added. So the ends of the rails, that last foot or so, is extremely beefy. And you know, on both sides, again, the same thing is we have left, you know, back here, the factory flange. We have not cut the factory flange off. But where we have cut the factory flange off up here, it's all encased in more steel. So these rails are, I think, extremely strong. And actually, you can see right here also, okay, this is all weld. So it's not beautiful, but where this spot welded into the top of your frame rail, I had went through here originally and just laid a bunch of weld in there just to tie all of that stuff together. So that's a solid chunk of metal right there. Like I said, I feel pretty good about it. I don't think we need to triangulate that, but if I get enough comments saying that y'all think I do, you know, we'll add a little bar in there. I don't think it needs to be nothing big. I think it can be the same size as that one right there. Well, that one was. But yeah, so I think we're also going to clean up some of this maybe. I ordered a brake line bender actually, because I've had to bend all these by hand. I don't have a brake line bender. So we're going to be taking this line out, I think, that crosses over. We're going to be taking it out for paint because I am going to paint this front end, and we are going to rebend our line up. I ordered chassis tabs, so I've never had chassis tabs on this. I literally just kind of had it zip tied and the line, you know, wherever, hanging. So we're going to go ahead and change that up and actually tab the chassis for the correct brake lines with the C-clips. So it's going to be really nice this time around, and we'll probably go ahead and tab it, you know, like right here. Will probably be perfect on both sides so that it can tuck back. So I might have to change lines again, but I do have some already in storage, little, you know, brake lines. They're not too bad to pick up, but we're going to clean this thing up this go around and improve everything that was kind of added. So you know, that's the basic drifts of the chassis improvements. Water pump, I think we're going to keep on these clamp-on mounts just because it is movable. If we change the water pump to the BMW versus the other one, we're not stuck with just a bracket. Thinking about doing the same thing with the fuel filter, is putting it on some of them clamps also versus welding a plate on the tube. So I'm not too excited ever about welding plates to tubes. We've talked about this in the past because I'm so quick to change things up on, you know, a car and cut stuff apart, that I like universal where I can kind of move things around as I want to. Or if I change a product, I don't have to change the mount also. You know, the radiator or the intercooler, I know we won't be changing that. If we do change that, it'll be big changes. So that's the reason why the fronts are tabbed on the intercooler. But probably if I was doing the intercooler now versus back then, we'd probably also be using bolt-on clamps for that. Because I know a lot of people think that the tabbed chassis look good and clean and everything, but I 100% disagree on that. So having solid mounted tabs just sets yourself up for failure on paint work. So if you paint your front end, base coat, clear coat like I do, and it's all nice and beautiful, then anytime you have welded on tabs and you want to make a change, then you have to weld more on, grind paint, and I just don't like it. Whereas these guys right here have rubber protectors inside of them, and you can easily just unclamp them, move them, make your change, you know, as long as you're just talking about accessories. So everything that be hung on this front bar would be accessories. So I think we're going to put our oil cooler on some of them brackets. So in our oil cooler right now, our oil filter just bolts to the engine plate. And like I said, I think we're going to move that so it's easy to get to. So no tabbing there. So that's basically it. I just got to tab for the brake lines. And then, you know, like I said, when I get the brake line bender in, I'll probably clean all of this up with all of these, get rid of some of these soft lines, braided lines. I don't know, not 100%. Might move some stuff, change some stuff. Got some other changes we're gonna make while this thing is broke down, but I think that's gonna be a wrap on this video. We're gonna finish this thing out this week. Hopefully the fab work on it, waiting for, you know, the brake line tabs and stuff, and then get this thing to paint. Also, if you have not entered into our fire suit giveaway, you need to go find that video. It's gonna be the card at the end of this video. Fire suit giveaway, get yourself entered, watch the video, follow the instructions, make sure you do as we talk about in the video so that you're counted in the drawing, and enter into your chance for free to get yourself a fire suit. So like, comment, subscribe, and share if you haven't already done it. Smash that notification button so you can be notified as we continue this. We're gonna get this motor to TKM started this week, and I'll catch you on the next update. Thanks, y'all.